It is not a secret that a chosen one is a common trope amongst all forms of art, and anime is no exception. We have a treacherous villain, a kind-hearted hero, and everything in between, but when does a character become prophetic, and do we consider Luffy as one too? Hello comrade, my name is Mahis. Come, get yourself a beverage and sit down with me. We got a serious conversation to have. This video was sponsored by absolutely no one, but you can support the channel through Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and full episode reactions to shows we watch on Discord, which you can also be part of by clicking a link in the description. A quick disclaimer for the upcoming discussion: One Piece manga spoiler warning as we need it for Joyboy stuff, and terminology heads up as I'll be using the Chosen One and the Child of Prophecy interchangeably for the purpose of this particular video. Let's start with my general feel towards One Piece story and why this topic is so important to me. I always thought of Luffy as a little boy going on adventures in this big scary world. Granted, the boy is quite capable and his adventures are changing said world. But when I've read about the Drums of Liberation and the Joyboy's return, I had to scratch my balls for a good second because it kinda ruined my perception of the whole story. Suddenly, Luffy did what I thought was impossible and completed the trinity of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit as the newest kid on the Chosen One block. One has a literal prophecy about him, the other one is a specifically engineered plot armor machine, and the third, well, that's what we're gonna talk about. Chosen versus Unchosen. What's the difference? The one is destined to do something, the other one is not. Duh! It is not that simple though, since there are also questions like, do they have to work hard, or what happens if they don't accept their destiny? I define the Unchosen One as a character whose circumstances do not define their end goal. They might have a dream of their own or go with the flow, yet there is nothing that binds them to a particular future. Take Gon for example. He is certainly a prodigy and has capacity for greatness, except that he hit a little speed bump on the way there, so we will, hopefully, eventually see where it gets him. Right from the get-go, his goal was to track down the milk and find out why it was more important than the family. He followed in his father's footsteps, made some good friends, and even participated in some cool safaris. However, at no point do we think of him as a plug for every hole, even if he did help to prevent a crisis or two. The world still exists, and shit happens with or without this amoral green monster. Yes, this dude literally let go and thanked a serial killer, healed up assholes who blow up and torture people, as well as took an innocent blind girl as a hostage. Anyway, this is a polar opposite of a Child of Prophecy, as a Chosen One is a character with at least one circumstance defining their end goal. Let's look at the quintessential representation of this trope. Naruto proved the talent to be inferior by pulling a nine tails out of his ass, Uzumaki. The whole fucking original show, we were told that he's an underdog, can't perform basic jutsu, has no friends, when it turns out he has one of the most esteemed lineages, ability to learn mask clone jutsu overnight, and a squad of mischievous goblins who consistently reduced Iruka's quality of life. I'm joking of course, although this is somewhat similar to one stretchy boy who ate the most important devil fruit there is. In Naruto, about halfway into the story, we were told about the Toad Sage prophecy and Jiraiya thinking of his last student as the one, which gave us a decent understanding of what's to come. The least conspicuous ninja ever will unite the world and everybody will live happily ever after until Shonen Jump decides that they need more money. But Mahis, wouldn't this mean that a character doesn't have to try hard to achieve anything since their success is predetermined? A very good question, comrade, and I can think of two situations that will help us clarify this. There was this dude called Niccolo Paganini, who, a couple of centuries ago, was shredding a violent Dragon Force style. He was so good in fact, people thought that he made a pact with the devil in order to play better. The reason for his success, among other things, was his genetic disorder. Contrary to a popular belief, Paganini's hand was not larger than normal. Instead, all its parts were so stretchable due to Marfan syndrome that it could double its reach, allowing him to play an otherwise impossible combination of notes. But even with his unquestionable genius and a literal quirk for playing violin, he still had to practice a ton, sometimes up to 15 hours a day. This goes to show that even though one might be destined for greatness, it doesn't invalidate their journey, nor it guarantees a smooth sailing. Here's the example of the opposite: Mark Twain, Captain Stormfield's visit to heaven. You see, everybody knows that if he had had a chance, he would have shown the world some generalship that would have made all generalship before look like child's play and apprentice work. But he never got a chance. Sometimes there are circumstances that prevent people from utilizing their potential, and stuff like laziness or entitlement can certainly be one of them. How many stories have you heard of people being born with a silver spoon up their asses and ruining generations of accumulated wealth due to drugs, stupidity, and such? There is a certain degree of choice when it comes to accepting being the one, and this is where discussion gets into a bit of a pickle: the chosen one paradox. If there is a prophecy about the character, they have to be the one, otherwise the prophecy is not that prophetic or we have a wrong character. A certain ReZero plotline comes to mind. Mute the video if you don't want to get spoiled on the ending of the second season. I'll give you a few seconds and the countdown to when to come back. Beatrice was ordered by Echidna to guard the archive until that person comes and takes her away. Then, 400 years later, Subaru shows up and wants to do exactly that. However, he specifically denies being that person as he wants to help Bayako exercise her own free will, which in turn fulfills the damn prophecy. No matter how you approach it, the chosen one will be the one, regardless of the way they got there. Now, after this brief introduction, we can finally talk about Luffy. Where does he fit on this dichotomous scale? Well, the prophecy is there and it has several components, that much can be argued. First, Joyboy is expected to return 800 years later, which is now. Second, Sea Kings talked about someone leading them in about 25 years and that this time it will work out. Some of which already happened now that I think about it, as Shirahoshi and Luffy met a good while ago and whales had their happy dance too. But none of that points at this meat grinder directly. Until we get the Five Elders revelation about the devil fruit they were hunting for 800 years and that it seems to be avoiding them on purpose. No clue how it works, and don't really need to make a calculated guess that God Nika somehow put his quote-unquote will into it and set it on a path to find the right host. This is what ties Luffy with this prophecy, because he obviously had a combination of qualities that the fruit was looking for, since it ended up being consumed by him. Or did he? This is where my biggest concern pops up. All his aspirations, like becoming the king of pirates, finding One Piece and so on, came up after he got his hands on the edible. So, did it implant these thoughts just like Nika did with the fruit, or it amplified whatever Gumball already had? He was a good-natured kid right off the bat and wanted to become a pirate. But suddenly, after a pretty traumatic event, he said fuck joining the crew, I'll make my own and be better than Shanks, which is infinitely more challenging than joining an already established crew. Now he has to start from scratch and experience every struggle there is in order to catch the King of Hokages, and as a result, he'll have to gradually grow in both mind and body, which is exactly what he needs to get to Gear 5, aka Joyboy, God Nika, Drums of Liberation, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Again, it's almost like the fruit is exercising its ability to somehow alter its course by setting Luffy on a path of becoming the Joyboy. Cause look at how this entire clusterfuck began. Shanks, for whatever reason, arrived to this middle of nowhere, stayed there for a while, and left arguably the most valuable item they had unguarded. I swear, this purple ballsack looking ass appears to be cosplaying as the One Ring and using everyone around it to get itself to its rightful owner. Do you see what's happening? This revelation retroactively affects my understanding of the plot, as I would have never questioned Luffy's drive before learning about this prophecy. Yes, I did say that the fruit chose him because he had what it needed, making his motivation his own. But why did Nika allegedly give an 800-year estimation for his return? I say allegedly because we only have interpretations, not his actual words. Did he know when the Straw Hats captain will be born, or the fruit just had to avoid the world government for a certain amount of time and get eaten by a random person? There is a cascade of questions that immediately arises when you introduce a Deus Ex Machina like that, and as an author, you have to be very careful not to confuse the cause and effect. Did Hito Hito no Mi make Luffy the way he is, or was it the other way around? I like to think that our lad had the potential similar to the original Joyboy, and that the Nika fruit served as a catalyst to help him get to where he needs to. Yet, there's still a question that needs to be answered. Is he the chosen one? With all the evidence that we have so far, and taking all the definitions into account, I have to conclude that Luffy is in fact a child of prophecy. Does this invalidate all his accomplishments? No. Was this a smooth sailing for the Straw Hats? Hell no! Was the deal sealed at his birth or when he ate the fruit? That's unclear, but this was definitely the start of his journey to become king by will and liberator by fate. It was I, Mahis, connecting dots into the microphone. Have a great whatever time of the day you have. Until next time, cheers. How many stories have you heard? How many stories have you heard? Чё за хуйню ты несёшь?